Hi, welcome to this quick video where we'll take a look at some of our latest features within Naviate Structure. In this session we will take a look at the Auto Dimension feature. As its name suggests, this will automate the intelligent dimensioning of typical elements within your project. So in the current plan we're looking at, you can see that some of the columns are actually on grid, but some of the columns are only placed on one grid and some of them are completely off of grid. Of course, this means that we will need to dimension each column back to the nearest grid intersection. Let's begin by placing dimensions on all of our columns that are off grid. Our Auto Dimension tool will automatically filter out elements that are actually placed on grid. To assist with the selection, we'll go ahead and use our Live Selection tool to allow us to select the objects that we want to actually auto dimension. So what we'll do here is we'll expand the structural columns, we'll expand the concrete columns, and you can see here that I can specifically select a particular group of columns here. So these are all of the 450 by 650 columns. With the Live Selection dialog still open, we can go into our Naviate Structure tab and then start up the Auto Dimension tool. In the Auto Dimension dialog, we can first select our intended dimension type. So in this example, I'll go ahead and select this dimension type here. Next, we're going to decide to dimension our elements from the center. And then I want the dimensions to be placed out to the left in the x-axis, and then initially in the negative y-axis over here. Let's begin by putting in some offset values. So here we'll try 1000 in the x, and then perhaps for the y we'll try 1500. And of course here I don't want to keep any of the existing dimensions because there are none on the plan, and then we'll apply the dimensions to the view. We can clearly see here that the dimensions have now been placed out, but we actually have a clash over here. Now the really good thing with our dialog here is we can then start to tweak and change some of these values. So looking at my x dimension here, we can actually increase this, so let's try 1550, something like this, and we'll click apply again. And we can now see all of those dimensions are now clear of the pile cap. Next we'll place dimensions on the columns around the edge of the structure. Again, let's use our Live Selection tool to facilitate this. So we'll go ahead and check the 450 by 450 columns now, which are around the perimeter of the structure. And once again we'll use a similar configuration, but it makes sense now to have the dimensions offset to the right hand side. So again here we can select apply to actually place those dimensions out onto the view. And we can now see just in a few seconds that we now have all of those off-grid columns dimensioned automatically. Let's now take a look at dimensioning up the pile caps. So I'm going to switch the plan here to our pile cap plan. And this time we don't actually want to dimension the pile caps from the centre, but perhaps from the edge of the concrete elements. So in our dialog here we'll actually change our dimension style. And here I want to dimension to the edge of the elements. Now this can actually use single point insertion families such as isolated foundations, but alternatively we can actually use the edge tool to dimension things like walls or beams. So this is a very flexible tool. So once again we'll get this configured. So of course we want an offset here, and I'm going to begin here by offsetting to the left and down. And of course now we actually want to make our selection set as well, so we'll go back into our Live Selection set here, we'll open up our structural foundations, and this time we'll select our 5-pile pile caps. So looking into the Auto Dimension dialog box, I can see here that we'll need a bigger dimension for the offset in the X, so we'll try 2000, and we'll try 1550 again for the Y, and then we'll click apply to place out those dimensions. And again here we can see that our Auto Dimension tool has placed out all of those dimensions, this time from the edge of the elements. Now of course we have the 4-pile pile caps also to auto dimension as well, so we'll go ahead and make the selection set with our Live Selection tool. And again in a similar fashion here we want the dimensions perhaps offset to the right hand side now in the x-axis, and again I can just simply select apply here to automatically place out those dimensions. And there we are, we can now see that all of our pile caps have been dimensioned back to the nearest grid intersection from the edge of the elements rather than the centre. Finally, let's dimension up some builders work openings. So I'm just going to select this plan here, and you can see that I've already got some of these openings dimensioned. Now of course we don't want the tool to actually replace the dimensions that we've perhaps manually placed out within the plan. So what I'm going to do here is make a manual selection of the builders work openings. Again, we'll configure our auto dimension dialog. So here I want to dimension to the centre of these elements over here. Of course we do want an offset again, but this time I want to go to the left and above. And perhaps here we'll set an initial value of 600 in the X and perhaps 1000 in the Y. And this time I do want to keep the existing dimensions within the plan, and then we can apply. Again, looking into the plan, you can see that the red dimensions are as I placed them, but you can now see that we have those three elements now dimensioned as required. And of course we can obviously move these dimensions to suit our particular arrangement. Okay, so just in a few minutes we've now dimensioned up all of the off-grid columns, all of the pile caps from the edges of the element back to the nearest grid, and also these generic models which are representing builders' work openings. So to summarise, the Auto Dimension tool will save a lot of manual dimensioning. And another really good thing with this is that all the dialogues are modeless, so the tools can be used together for powerful workflows to automate manual repetitive tasks. Okay, see you soon.